I just want to take this moment to talk about why most people are pretty much doomed to be poor forever. I think this is kind of an ironic topic because I think the primary reason that most people are stuck being poor is actually because they're focused too much on money. For example, like I know people who are so focused on money, that's all that they can think about all the time is how they're going to get more money, and yet they never actually make any money because they're so focused on that fact. I love the idea that if you only focus on money, you'll never be able to make money. Instead, you have to kind of shift your mindset to be focused on what you're actually doing that's gonna give you the money. For example, like a doctor. Doctors make a lot of money, right? But if they're always just focused on making money, then they're not going to be the best doctor, and best doctors get paid more, right? I think it's crazy how much mindset actually changes how we act. If we have this mindset that like we're just poor, then we start to act in ways that make us more poor. But if you think that you're already wealthy or you already have money, then you act in ways that a person who has money acts. And we think like, oh, people who have money, how do they act? Well, they buy expensive things to show off. They buy Rolexes and they buy Lamborghinis. Well, most of the time, I don't even think that's true because the only people who have a lot of money who I see doing that are people who are like influencers or people who are in the spotlight and they make money from buying those things that people like to see. But most wealthy people don't just spend their money on things that are gonna lose value. But the people with the poor mindset do. I've heard statistics that a lot of people who come into money really fast, like someone who just won the lottery or something, won $400 million, they're much more likely to be broke again in a couple years because they already have a poor mindset rather than having a wealthy mindset. I know with like NFL players and NBA players, a lot of times they lose their entire fortune after they get hurt or whatever and can't play anymore because they're not used to having money, not used to handling money, not used to making money. There's a statistic that most generational wealth is lost by the third generation. The grandparents who start this company, right? They understand all the effort that it took to build up the company to where it is and to build that amount of wealth. Their kids saw the amount of effort that it took them to build the company and to build the wealth, so they appreciate the money and they use it wisely. But then their kids never saw their parents have to work for the money. They never had to work for the money. And so most of the time, the money gets lost because they grow up with wealth, but they still have a poor mindset. It's so ironic that the poor mindset buys cheap things, but often wastes more money than people who have a lot of money do. Now, this is not to say anything bad about poor people or people who don't have money. And I know there's so many people who are just less fortunate. But that's kind of why I want to make this video, is because if you don't have a lot of money, there are ways to build wealth so that you can retire, so that you can take care of your family and live a more enjoyable life. But a lot of times it's going to take a mindset shift. I definitely had part of the poor mindsets before. I think one thing that's part of the poor mindset is you gotta buy the cheapest of things, and you always gotta buy things when you see them on sale. The problem is sometimes you see a sale of something you weren't gonna buy anyways, but because it's on sale, now you need to buy it. Even if it's the best sale in the world and you got $400 off of a $600 item, you still end up spending $200 that you wouldn't have spent if there was no sale. And so because there was a sale, you actually lost more money. That's a poor mindset. Or a poor mindset might say, okay, I need to buy a cheap phone, a $100 phone, because the iPhones and the Samsungs, they're like $1,000 and I need to save money. So you buy the cheapest phone you can possibly find and you spend $100, but then you end up having to replace that phone every 6 months for 2 years, and now you spent $400. When if you just had bought a $400 phone to begin with, it may have lasted 6 years. It may have saved you money while giving you a better experience at the same time. Now that's not to say that you should never try and save money and try to keep from spending money. It's just that you need to think logically through the steps that are actually saving you the most money. I see so many people who tell me, I'm really struggling with my finances. I'm struggling to pay my bills. But then when I'm invited into their home, I just see so much stuff everywhere. Stuff that's still in packaging, stuff that's as seen on TV products. They probably don't even know where they got it from or why it's there. They've never used it. But because it was on sale, or because it was cheap and they thought it was a good deal, or because it was cool and it was only $5, they bought it. But you add all of that stuff together and that's where the $10,000 went that they could have saved last year. But if you had bought something that was worth a little bit more value than that, say you bought a $500 chair, instead of buying 50 little items over time that were on sale for $5. Well, if you use this chair for a year and you decide to get rid of it, you can sell it for maybe $300. I did that one time. I bought a $600 Shaquille O'Neal chair and I used it for I think a year or two, and then I ended up selling it for like $300. And so even though I spent more money on the initial chair, not only did I get a great experience using that chair, but I also got some of my investment back when I sold the chair. But if I had bought just a bunch of little things for $5 over time, I never would have made any of that money back on those items. If you really want to help someone earn money or help someone with their finances, I think the place to start is with the mindset. You can't help someone with their finances by giving them money, giving them $1,000, because the next week they may have bought $1,000 worth of groceries or canned goods or toys for their children or whatever, because they don't have the mindset of making that $1,000 work for them to make even more money. The hardest part with this is I don't think most people who have a poor mindset realize that they have a poor mindset. I think the best thing that you can do is download your most recent bank statement for the last month and just look through all of your items, look through all of the things that you spent money on, categorize them, and see, okay, did I spend way too much on food? How many little items did I buy this month? How much money did that add up that if I didn't buy them, I could save? How many subscriptions do I have? Add up all of these little things and figure out, okay, do I have a poor mindset, which is to buy a lot of low quality and cheap items? That's part of the poor mindset. Or do I have a mindset that's save money on all those? Maybe every once in a while I will buy something that's quality and something that's expensive, that's going to last me a long time and that I can sell in the future. I'm saving money over time. Anyways, let me know what you guys think below. Do you think that you might be struggling with a poor mindset? I know I still do sometimes, so let me know.